Poland, Mexico, and now Italy. Tuesday Night Titans is worldwide. Thanks for tuning into another special episode of Tyler Vance Rants. I am your host, Tyler Vance himself. It is August 28th, 1984. On last week's Tuesday Night Titans, Freddie Blassie introduced us to his new client, Nikolai Volkov. David Wolf was given the job of destroying the Fabulous Freebirds' legacy as he was shown to be their new manager, and Hulk Hogan ran Mean Gene Okerlund through a 1980s training montage. Genomania was running wild! Once more, Vince McMahon and Lord Alfred Hayes host Tuesday Night Titans, and the very first thing that we get to witness is a singles match between Iron Mike Sharpe and Steve Gray. Sharpe dominates Gray, who's only really able to breathe in this match before he's tossed outside of the... Hold on, what's that?
Oh, what was that?
Never have I ever seen someone get thrown outside of the ring so hard that their toupee falls off. How embarrassing. As if to make matters worse for Steve Gray, once he's back inside the ring, he is very quickly finished off by a forearm from Iron Mike Sharpe. Speaking of Mike Sharpe, he's the very first guest of Tuesday Night Titans this week, and he comes out screaming at the studio audience.
Hey, stop! I didn't come out here to listen to that! What are you talking about? What's the matter? You all need glasses!
Vince McMahon starts the interview off by asking Sharpe why being called a wimp affects him so much.
Why does it affect you so? I mean, if we can talk about this intelligently, you know you're not a wimp.
That's right, I know I'm not a wimp, and everybody should know, and I don't understand what's the matter with these people!
There has been tremendous speculation about the forearm brace that Mike Sharpe wears down to the ring, in that the masses think he hides foreign objects underneath it, which allows him to get such devastating blows and secure victories. This just isn't the case, as not only does Iron Mike Sharpe take it off and show us that there is absolutely nothing hidden underneath, but he reveals that he has doctor's permission to wear it due to an injury that he sustained a while back.
Now the fact is, I have an injured arm that was injured many years ago. I have a doctor's permission to wear this.
What was the nature of the injury, if you could recall,
Well, that was a few years ago. I don't remember exactly. You know, somebody told me that wrestling fans have the IQ of about 50 or 60.
I've been saying this for months now. The people that call themselves wrestling fans are nothing more than rabid animals who froth at the mouth whenever things don't go their way. As for me, I have never once lost my cool at all when it comes to covering professional wrestling. I am truly a role model for the masses to follow. A woman by the name of Amy McMullen is the next guest on Tuesday Night Titans, and she writes magazine articles for the World Wrestling Federation magazine. Vince McMahon's first question towards McMullen is wanting to know why she decided to pursue a career in journalism, specifically journalism covering professional wrestling.
Why write about professional wrestling?
It's an interesting sport. And it's fun. I really enjoy it.
You're damn right it is, and anybody that says otherwise can shut the hell up. See? I'm a role model. In several WWF Magazine articles, Amy McMullen has written some derogatory remarks about certain wrestlers, and in her defense, she states that she does this because we as the fans deserve to know the truth outside of what we see of the professional wrestlers on TV. This, of course, causes some of the wrestlers that are on the receiving end of these derogatory remarks to sometimes threaten or have negative encounters when it comes to meeting with or speaking to Amy McMullen. Despite this, McMullen states that she will never compromise her integrity and continue to bring us her biased opinion in the WWF magazine.
There are bound to be some repercussions to that.
Yeah. But I'm willing to take the chance. I think it's worth it.
I respect that. But instead of writing articles that attack people like Mr. Wonderful, Paul Orndorff, Captain Lou Albano, maybe you should write articles that cover why Jimmy Superfly Snuka needs therapy and why Hulk Hogan drinks protein shakes with eggs included, shell and all. The New Zealand Nightmare Tony Garea takes on Ken Patera one-on-one next. Patera employs a lot of delay tactics in an effort to get under the Kiwi's skin and cause him some frustration. Despite this, Garea employs his favorite move, the headlock. but Ken Patera's pure strength alone easily allows the Olympian to break free. An elbow from Patera catches Garea in the face moments later, which allows Ken Patera to have complete control of the match going forward. The New Zealander attempts a counterattack with a flurry of punches and kicks, however he's simply thrown outside of the ring by Ken Patera and dominated some more. Once back in the ring, Garea is put into a full Nelson and forced to submit by Patera.
Hey, mate! He's finished! He's finished!
Did I mention how much I like Ken Patera? A mountain of a man who we've seen before on Tuesday Night Titans returns as the next guest, Big John Studd. Up until this moment, Vince McMahon had been hyping up the fact when Big John Studd arrived, he would attempt to break a record by bench pressing more than 660 pounds. But Studd says not tonight.
And we're certainly looking forward to you attempting to break that record.
You're going to see it, but you're not going to see it today.
Instead, we're shown a match between Bob Marcus and Big John Studd himself. And what's interesting about this match is that none other than King Kong Angelo Mosca Sr. is on guest commentary with Vince McMahon for this match.
You know, I think John Studd has probably grown 3 or 4 inches since the last time I've seen him.
As the match begins, Studd gives Marcus a free opportunity to try and lift the mountain up and slam him, but Big John Studd does not even budge. The match then becomes the typical David versus Goliath story. However, in this version, Goliath smashes David like a bug as the masses watch on in horror.
He almost looks like the Colossus of Rhodes standing there.
For once, King Kong, we agree, and I would actually like to see you attempt to climb the Empire State Building that is Big John Studd. Studd lifts Bob up and drops him neck first down onto the top rope, and moments later drops an elbow onto Bob Marcus's chest to get the 1, 2, 3. Back in the TNT studio, Studd mentions that every opponent he faces off against, he sees as Andre the Giant, which prompts Vince McMahon to insinuate that Studd seemingly has an obsession with Andre.
You seem to have an obsession with Andre the Giant.
Studd does not have an obsession with Andre. Instead, all the big man wants to do is beat the 8th wonder of the world and prove to everybody that there is only one giant in professional wrestling. Big John Studd. Mail time is next, and I let someone else take over throwing duties this week so I could rest my 28-inch Cobras, but the loser missed. This is why you should always do things yourself if you want things done right. The first question asks how the writer can go about becoming a professional wrestler, and Vince McMahon mentions that perhaps maybe he should try his hand at the amateurs.
I would suggest that you acquire a great deal of amateur experience before you even contemplate the hard knocks.
The second question states that the Iron Sheik is currently the best wrestler in the entire world, followed closely by Rowdy Roddy Piper. This writer has a good eye. They then go on to ask when we can expect to see a match between the two. Instead of answering the question, Vince McMahon instead reminds us of that stupid, idiotic, ridiculous, moronic decision that he made to have Hot Rod permanently banned from Tuesday Night Titans.
Do you think we couldn't get him onto the program and in Americanized terms straighten him out a little bit?
The only thing going to be straightened out are those British teeth of yours if you keep saying asinine things like that, awful Alfie. The next guest on Tuesday Night Titans is George Scott. Scott had a very storied career as a tag team competitor alongside his brother Angus, and together they comprised the Flying Scots, and pretty much accomplished all they could in every territory that they ever competed in. Scott himself states that it was his love for professional wrestling which not only ensured his longevity, but also his success in the sport. We're then shown archival footage of a match between Professor Tanaka taking on Gorilla Monsoon. And while this is cool, I do have to ask why we're not being shown footage of Scott and his brother. Anyways, the match itself is joined in progress, and we immediately see both Tanaka and Monsoon miss their respective splashes on one another. The professor then attempts to lift Gorilla Monsoon up, but the heft of Gorilla proves to be too much, so Tanaka falls on his back, which ensures that Gorilla Monsoon gets the 1, 2, 3. Back in the TNT studio, Vince McMahon asked George Scott which wrestlers gave him the most headaches when he was actively competing, and Scott mentions that both the Gallagher and the Smith brothers proved to be quite the handfuls, as we move on to the next guest in Cowboy Bob Orton. Orton comes out chewing some good old tobacco, and Vince McMahon wants to know why.
Do you normally chew like this when you're riding your horses and things
Helps
like
me relax, Vince.
Helps you relax.
Why do you do the things that you do, Vince? Do you even know how to relax? We're shown footage of Cowboy Bob Orton doing the exact opposite of relaxing as he takes on Pat Patterson in singles competition. When the bell rings, Patterson makes the mistake of turning his back on Orton, which allows the Cowboy to go to complete town on his opponent. He rips his knee pad down, exposing his bare knee, and drops it right onto Patterson's head, which explains why Pat is so damn ugly. Pat Patterson manages to come back from this and catapults Bob Orton into the corner before he heads outside of the ring and slams the Cowboy's knee into the ring post. Not once, but twice. Hey ref, you want to stop standing there like a goof and do your job? Disqualify this clown. From there, Patterson focuses on the now injured leg of the Cowboy and puts Orton into a figure-4 leg lock, but thankfully, Bob Orton forces a break by grabbing onto the ropes. A single leg Boston Crab follows, but once again, Bob Orton uses his ring savvy to force a break with the ropes. Bob Orton finally manages to mount a comeback following an enziguri, and he lifts the heft of Pat Patterson up and then down for a backbreaker and a pin. However, Patterson is learning from his opponent, and he manages to get one of his feet on the ropes to force a break. Thinking he's won, Cowboy Bob Orton begins to celebrate prematurely. However, Pat Patterson sneaks up behind him and rolls the Cowboy up for a pin, which in turn is also reversed and enables Cowboy Bob Orton to walk away with the 1-2-3. Now that we've returned to the Tuesday Night Titans studio, Vince McMahon states that Bob Orton's tactics are unbecoming of a professional wrestler. So, Orton counters this with, part of being a professional wrestler is outsmarting your opponent.
Because I outsmarted one of the greatest pros of all time.
Stick to your poor man's excuse for journalism, McMahon, and leave the wrestling to the wrestlers. Cowboy Bob Orton is a second-generation wrestler, and his father, Bob Orton Sr., was a legend in his own right. Vince McMahon wants to know how the son would compare his skills to the father.
My dad was a great wrestler, there's no doubt about that.
But you obviously feel you're a great wrestler.
Oh, yes.
Lord Alfred Hayes then pipes in and says that he knew Bob Orton Sr. very well, and that he was a very honorable man, before asking Cowboy Bob Orton how his father would feel about the questionable tactics that his son employs in the ring.
Only the strong survive.
You might be wondering, why is Bob Orton's nickname Cowboy? Well, it's because he's a cowboy, you moron. And to emphasize this, Orton brings out his horse Indigo, which is a beautiful Appaloosa.
Is there something wrong with it? It has sort of spots on it.
No, that's an Appaloosa.
Considering Lord Alfred Hayes has never seen a horse up close besides his mother, Orton demonstrates how to properly saddle the animal, while Vince McMahon asks whether the Lord wants to touch Indigo.
Let's put Alfred on there.
Oh, I'm not getting on that.
Oh, Alfred, would you please?
Oh, no.
Too bad, Awful Alfie. Get up there, and here's Bob Orton's hat while you're at it. There you go, you're almost looking the part. Now that Cowboy Bob Orton has walked both Indigo and Lord Awful Alfred Hayes into the sunset, we're then shown a match joined in progress between B. Brian Blair and Gentleman Jerry Valiant. Valiant is in control, but this quickly changes when he misses an elbow drop on Brian, who then goes up to the second rope and drops an elbow of his own on Valiant's head, securing a 2 count. Moments later, B. Brian Blair puts Gentleman Jerry Valiant in an abdominal stretch and rolls over to secure the win. Salvatore Bellomo is the final guest of Tuesday Night Titans, and I have to ask, why is it every time that Big John Studd is on the show, Bellomo has to be as well? Whatever, as long as we don't have to watch this loser make more paper-mache boats.
Well, it's since a year's gonna be home yet.
What?
I've been in this country, still busy, and I'm very happy.
Speak up, Salvatore!
Our illustrious floor manager is asking you to speak up, I think.
Now that we can actually hear what Bellomo was saying, he and Vince McMahon discuss a match he recently had against former WWF World Heavyweight Champion Bob Backlund, and Mr. Italy reveals that he learned a lot from his opponent due to Backlund's technical prowess. According to Salvatore himself, he prefers to go up against opponents such as Bob Backlund, who are more scientific in their approach, rather than go up against brawlers like Hulk Hogan. That's why you'll never amount to anything, Salvatore Bellomo. You have to be adaptable in order to succeed in professional wrestling. Italian musicians then come out of nowhere and interrupt the interview as they serenade Salvatore Bellomo.
I'm a sow because I like to cook.
Before Bellomo, Vince McMahon, and Lord Alfred Hayes get a little taste of Italy as they prepare the worst looking pizza I've ever seen in my entire life.
That powder to it.
Don't ruin my salad, Alfred.
You have powder all over your nose. That's probably not the first time I've seen it.
The trio sit down to dinner once the food is finished being prepared, and Vince McMahon offers a delightful review.
Looks different.
After a toast of Chianti to the three men, Tuesday Night Titans comes to an end for 3 weeks. Yes, you heard me right, 3 weeks. But in order to make up for this, a lot happened on this week's episode. Big John Studd revealed that every opponent he stands across the ring from, he views as Andre the Giant in an effort to prove that there is only one true giant in professional wrestling. Him. Cowboy Bob Orton demonstrated how to be a real man to Lord Alfred Hayes and forced the British aristocrat to take a ride on his horse, Indigo. And Salvatore Bellomo gave us a little taste of Italy, which continued the trend of Tuesday Night Titans delving into the backgrounds of the WWF's roster. While I might have grievances with the Polish Power Ivan Putski, WWF Intercontinental Champion Tito Santana, and specifically Mr. Italy Salvatore Bellomo, I have truly enjoyed learning more about each of their cultures. And the food! Oh my goodness, the food! The WWF does stand for World Wrestling Federation after all, and while the organization is primarily based in the United States of America, the love for professional wrestling is worldwide. Thanks for tuning in to another special episode of Tyler Vance Rants. Don't forget to like the video, hit the bell, and subscribe so you never miss when a new episode is released. And you can dive into my cultural background by following me on social media, where there's plenty of fun wrestling stuff for you to check out there, and I would politely ask for you to share the video with your family and friends. That's it for me, so long for now. This, of course, causes some of the victims. And George Scott mentions that both the Gallagher rope and drops an elbow zone